I'm Jenny, and I also left MAGA.
Hey everybody, Rich here coming to you at Leaving MAGA at leavingmaga.org with the MeidasTouch Network. Good to be back with all of you. I'm happy to report that Leaving MAGA has never been busier. And shameless book plug, we just had our memoir come out. It's entitled One Betrayal Too Many, Why I Left MAGA. And I've got a very, very special guest with us here today for our new video testimonial. Let me bring her in. We are joined by someone who does not need an introduction, Miss Jennie Gage from Arizona. She has her own YouTube channel, Life Take Two, and she is here with us today to talk about her story. Jennie, first off, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Rich, I feel like we're not just associates anymore. I feel like we're friends. We know each other, we know enough about each other, and we're kind of working on the same projects in different states. So I consider you a friend.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I feel the same way. Let's just get right into it here. Please, Jennie, take us through what it was about MAGA that attracted you. How did you get into the movement, and what happened to lead you to MAGA?
I had to be part of MAGA because I was already alt-right. And honestly, that's where everything in the alt-right was going at the time was Donald Trump. He stepped in and, about the same time that you were getting into MAGA, going into that 2016 election, I was already Mormon, trad wife, Christian nationalist, white supremacist, ultra conservative, prepping for the second coming to happen. And just very much as a wife and a mom, worried about the state of the world. I felt like everything was kind of falling apart. And I say this now, I know that some of the things that I say can land kind of hard on people who've never been MAGA before, but I feel like it's just important to dialogue about this. I felt like gay rights and gay marriage specifically, and the increasing numbers of like families that were in decline, as evidenced by all of the single moms around me and all of the divorce rates, were really indications that society was crumbling. America was going to hell in a handbasket. And I didn't want that to happen, but I didn't really know, how do you change that other than just Jesus Christ and the gospel, right? I didn't see a political leader, not even Mitt Romney. And that's funny as a Mormon girl that I wasn't that enthused by Mitt Romney until Donald Trump came along. So coming into that 2016 campaign, to me, he was the guy who was going to completely change America, get us back to our old fashioned ways of friends, family, faith, all that stuff. I don't know why, but I can still remember the day that I really fell in love with Donald Trump, what he was doing, and felt like I'm part of MAGA. I'm part of this movement before the word MAGA ever came along. And it was when I think it was a campaign rally. It was some type of speech. I was watching Fox News. I was in my living room. I had just dropped the kids off at school and I was, just going about my trad wife life. And I heard him say for the first time those words, "Make America Great Again." And I literally started to cry because I knew that what he was promising aligned with exactly what I wanted, a return to those old-fashioned American values. So that's how I hopped on the MAGA train. When those words came out of Donald Trump's mouth, I was sold.
Thank you for sharing. So take us through what
It's like a love story, Rich.
Yes,
Like
I was going to say, and you
we saw each other across the room, our eyes met, and
and
he promised to make all my dreams come true.
I know it was like a love story where you ran into each other's open arms, and you've done a video before that I think is really well known about your breakup letter to Donald Trump, which we'll get to in a moment.
Rich, that breakup letter was just funny. I just did it cathartically for myself. It was one of the most therapeutic things that I've ever done.
Well, I had a breakup letter as well, which I wrote on, albeit a little bit different one, but it's one that I wrote on August 30th, 2022, when I publicly renounced my support of Trump and MAGA. And the God's honest truth, Jennie, is I never thought after I wrote it and apologized that anybody would care. And it turned out that people did care. And here we are today talking because people cared about our stories and our Leaving MAGA. journeys and odysseys. Take
Rich,
us.
that's a really interesting point. And I know that you're trying to segue to another question here,
No,
but can we
go
just put a
ahead.
little pin in this? Because my breakup letter to Donald Trump, my videos that I started doing about leaving MAGA, I didn't realize that anybody cared about that. I genuinely didn't think that those videos were going to get any views. I was doing it for me. It was almost like going through my divorce and just kind of processing and writing in my diary about the man who once was the love of my life, my ex-husband, and now he's a stinky asshole. Those journal entries were just personally cathartic. And everything that I did, that breakup letter that I did for Trump and the videos that I did surrounding it, they were for an audience of one. It was just me. It was a way to process. And I'm still shocked, and I'm sure that sometimes you are too, that so many Americans and people around the world care that people are breaking up with Donald Trump.
Yes.
But they do.
Yeah, they do care. It's been an honor, and I've been humbled at how many people support our work, share our work online, are advocates and proponents for what we do, putting up billboards, making signs at protests. And I remember very well being in MAGA and feeling some similar emotions to what you feel and how you felt, Jennie, about feeling that this was my purpose and my cause. Tell us about what life was like for you in MAGA after Trump is elected. What was it like being this MAGA lady who was so devoted to the movement and to Trump?
It's so funny how much of my identity was wrapped up in MAGA, but part of that was I was already a cult baby. I was born and raised in the Mormon church. So I was used to bowing down to these charismatic leaders and, the authority figures being more important in my life than I even was, and real people around me. So definitely, like, all of these pipelines that led into Donald Trump, my Mormon prepping trad wife, hyper Christian national lifestyle leading me into Trump had definitely already primed me to just step into that new identity. Absolutely, 100%. So, one thing that's always really embarrassing for me is to post and just even look at myself, even privately in my own bedroom, some of the things that I used to put up on my social media. So I remember Donald Trump after the whole grab him by the pussy thing came out, and I was getting a lot of flack from other friends whenever I had my Trump stuff on my Facebook. And so I wrote this huge, long love letter to Donald Trump when he was still a candidate. And it had this picture that I had gotten online where Donald Trump is dressed like Napoleon. He has this, the beautiful French hat on. And I wrote this love letter about how that history is full of these men who have checkered pasts, who have this brute strength that at times offends people. But sometimes those guys are the ones who achieve the greatest success and create the most freedom for other people. So comparing him to Napoleon, I compared him to Jesus. I compared him, Moses. Moses stuttered and he murdered an Egyptian guy, and he wasn't a good guy, but he freed God's people, led them across the Red Sea. So I was constantly, really what I was doing was I was enmeshing myself with Donald Trump and with other people in MAGA. So during that time, like after Trump was elected, I was almost like waiting for America to finally be magical, right? And I had this feeling of like, I knew who my other friends were that were sympathizers, mostly the people that went to church with me and a lot of my neighbors in Utah and stuff. And I felt like we were all part of this beautiful family that was fighting against the wicked, evil, ignorant people that sided with, I don't know, the Democrats and the LGBTQ and the single moms and all that. So it definitely did become my identity. Like, Rich, don't you feel like you had this emotional enmeshment with MAGA that unless you're part of it and unless you've been a cult baby yourself, it's really hard to understand and it's hard to explain. But he wasn't just somebody that I saw on my screen. He wasn't just somebody that I knew was off in the distance in the White House. Like, I felt him. I felt his presence in my heart on a daily basis. And that is so embarrassing to talk about. So anyone watching, if you judge, I'm going to start telling my story. Stop telling my stories. So no judging.
Yeah, no. What we love
But
about
didn't you feel that?
Yeah, what we love about the MeidasTouch Network audience is very, very, very minuscule amounts of judging from our viewers. I felt that Trump was this person who was, as an outsider without any government, military, or political experience, was a person who was wanted the job for all the right reasons. And I felt that democracy had failed most people. I thought the two parties were the same. And I looked at Donald Trump as a person who would obliterate the established political order and start anew. And I came to realize after leaving MAGA that it's much easier to tear something down than it is to build it up.
Mm.
But whenever Trump was attacked by the press or by Democrats or liberals or anti-Trump Republicans or never Trumpers, it was like an attack on us.
It
So
was
the
because we identified as part of that family. Like if
and
somebody had said, your mom, something to me, your mom, that's how I felt when people attacked Donald Trump, when people attacked other members of his government, when people attacked his policies, his ideas, when they attacked MAGA at large. It was always a your mom type of moment for me. And I always came out swinging. Like, you did not just say that about my mama.
well, I think the community aspect of this is something that people who are not in MAGA, who look at this movement and think, why are so many people still devoted to it? The communal aspect of it, the second family, I had a second family with my MAGA compatriots. And because of my activism, as embarrassed as I am to admit this, sometimes that second family took precedence over my own blood family. And I neglected my duties at times as a husband and as a parent because of my MAGA second family. And walking away from MAGA, which we'll get to your part of this story in a moment, leaving that second family behind was one of the reasons it was so excruciatingly difficult to leave,
Mhm.
because I knew that I was walking away from a community, from a movement that had shaped my identity and my being and my personhood. So take us, Jenny, through your reasons. What were some of the reasons that eventually led you to feel like there was one lie, one betrayal too many that brought you to leave MAGA?
For me, I have a different exit story than a lot of people who are leaving MAGA because I started with the foundational cults in my life. First, I left the Mormon church, and that was 2018, October of 2018. And one of the core doctrines of MAGA was similar to the core doctrines of the Mormon church, and that's that LGBTQ is evil. So, sitting in church one Sunday, there was a lesson that was entitled The Evils of Homosexuality. And 10 minutes into that lesson, I just couldn't take it anymore. And what's ironic about that is that my whole entire life, 44 years up until that point, I had also hated on gay people liberally. I knew that they were evil, and I know that you and I have talked about this before. And if you go to leavingmaga.org and look at my story, then you can read a little bit about this. I had inadvertently, through no choice of my own, been forced to be friends with 3 lesbian couples through my Mormon multi-level marketing business that I was running as a little trad wife. And somebody signed up these lesbians and they started coming to my house all the time, these different couples. And it was the first time in my life that I had really come face to face with people that were supposed to be the most evil thing in the face of the planet. Inside of my bubble, I was really kept away from the others, right? And as I became friends with these people, I realized that these lesbians were the nicest. They had the best families. They had the most high functioning relationships of anyone else. Like all of my Mormon friends, their marriages were well, not all of them, but there are a lot of disastrous relationships. And these lesbians were so kind and so accepting of me personally in ways that nobody else in my alt-right, ultra-conservative community ever had been. So I didn't leave right then. It was several years later then that I'm sitting in church that Sunday and this lesson on the evils of homosexuality. And I walked out, resigned from the Mormon church. By the end of the week, 44 years, 5 generations, 7 generations on the other side of the family. And it ended with me. And then, so that was 2018. And I've spent then the past 7 years deconstructing everything, like religion in general and capitalism, gender roles, because I believed deeply that men and women were different, and I was supposed to be submissive, and I needed a protective provider to make keep me alive, right? And so, as I've deconstructed all of those things, about 2.5 years ago, I had transformed dramatically as a person, and all of those pipelines that initially had led me into magism. Rich, we got to start using that. I don't know if anyone's using magism. That was just an oopsie doodle, but I like it. All of those pipelines that had led me to Donald Trump to begin with I had deconstructed them and thrown them in the dump. So going into the election as a very different person, kind of the pre-campaign stuff leading up to how we ended up with President Trump today, I started, I was still MAGA. Like, I've let all of that stuff go, but I still love Donald Trump. He's still the best option for our country. So I started turning on my Fox News as a now feminist, as a now ex-Mormon atheist person who loves gay people and loves immigrants. And most of my friends now are brown. I'm the minority in my friends group, and started just listening to the pre-campaign stuff. And I could no longer tolerate a word out of his mouth, couldn't tolerate JD Vance. And more than anything, what it was that hit me during some of that pre-campaign stuff was just the hatred, the divisiveness. Like, when you really sit back after leaving MAGA and listen to how much them versus us comes out of MAGA, it's stunning. Like, everybody, the eating the dogs and the cats, some of the stuff around immigrants, some of the stuff around women as we were leading up to the election. So one day I whipped out my laptop, and again, now I've deconstructed Christianity, Mormonism, capitalism, gender roles, all this stuff, right? Marriage, everything. I already feel like everything's been torn to the ground brick by brick. But it's like I really have to look at my political party affiliation, because that is still a core identifying issue about me, Jennie Gage. So who am I? Am I Republican? Am I Democrat? Am I independent? Do I just need to move to Ireland or Mexico or something? And I got out a little notepad. I grabbed one of my notepads and I went through like the actual policies that Republicans have voted for in the past decade, Democrats, what the party stands for and what MAGA in particular stands for. And when I got done, I had checked all these boxes and I was like, oh shit, I'm a Democrat. So then I went and registered. I'm like, well, this sucks because I don't love Biden and he's like 99 years old. But that was it.
Well, you mentioned this in one of your comments. We do feature Jennie's story at our website at leavingmaga.org. We also
Such an honor.
Well, it's an honor to have you on us and associated with us as one of our leaders. And we also feature Jennie's story in our memoir, One Betrayal Too Many, which is just recently out. And I think, Jennie, I want to just publicly thank you for speaking out the way that you do. I want to welcome you to our Leaving MAGA community. I want to welcome you also to the MeidasTouch Network community. Tell us where people can find you and your videos.
I am primarily on YouTube. I'm Life Take Two. And I also have a Substack. My Substack is free. I write articles and essays and poetry just to kind of share my viewpoints, my shift in ideology. And I dive a little deeper there into escaping domestic violence and some of those factors that were so prevalent in my alt-right community too. So my Substack is called Churchified, which is a word that I made up myself to describe what I felt being inside church. So Churchified, and that's Life Take Two, Churchified. So follow me on YouTube. I have some great people over there too. I know, Rich, you've joined me on my YouTube, and I have a Tuesday night live stream that I always features somebody exciting as well as my own videos. My own crazy ex-MAGA, ex-Mormon, ex-wife life.
Yes, very crazy. I can attest to that. We like to conclude all of our videos with a positive affirmation that I'd like for you to join in with me. I like to say that I'm rich and I left MAGA.
I'm Jennie, and I also left MAGA so I could start my life. Take two.
We're with Jennie Gage from the state of Arizona. Jennie, thank you so much for being with us. Really honored and appreciate you being here.
Thank you. This was so exciting to wake up today knowing that I was going to talk to you, Rich.
Thank you.
Love you. Love Meidas. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
Hey, everybody, if you like that video, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment down below. Also, be sure to follow us at leavingmaga.org, where you can get information on our brand new memoir entitled One Betrayal Too Many, Why I Left MAGA, which has an endorsement from none other than Ben Meisalis, one of the founders of the MeidasTouch Network. As always, thanks for your support. Appreciate you watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.